More than 1,000 Palestinians have died waiting for medical evacuation. A language is that Israel sealed the Rafah crossing, and now, for its own strategic advantage, has chosen to unseal the crossing. But we're forgetting, or perhaps we're overlooking, the overarching structure of occupation, of genocide, of profound violence that is controlling absolutely everything at play here. At this rate, it would take over a year for the 20,000 awaiting evacuation to leave. We have to stress as well that this is likely a gross underestimation, and for as long as Israel continues to limit the amount of medical aid entering Gaza, the number of people needing to leave Gaza for treatment that's no longer available there will continue to grow. The reality is that over the course of the last 2.5 years, more than 1,000 Palestinians have died waiting for medical evacuation. They weren't able to exit in a timely fashion, and in large part that was due to obstructions and delays imposed by the Israeli occupation. I myself was involved with medical evacuations of patients from the hospitals in the north of Gaza to the south, where they were cared for awaiting medical evacuation. We had one case of a teenage girl who was brought down from the north with her mother, separated from her father in order to do that, and she died at the European Gaza hospital before she could leave. These are the stories of thousands of Palestinians who've suffered the most horrific conditions over the course of the last 2.5 years. No, as your colleague Tariq has mentioned, Israel controls absolutely everything here. We have to be very careful about the language that we're using. As Tariq mentioned, these are rights, not privileges. The transfer of patients for medical evacuation is a legal obligation, not an act of charity. And again, I'm hearing a lot of the language of closing and reopening Rafah. As I say, I was in Gaza at the time that the Israeli occupation forces invaded the city of Rafah. They occupied and then destroyed the Rafah border crossing. Israeli soldiers posted footage online of their tanks in the Rafah crossing courtyards, flattening absolutely everything in their way. The language is that Israel sealed the Rafah crossing, and now, for its own strategic advantage, has chosen to unseal the crossing, to deflect some of the criticism, of course, that is growing of its actions in Gaza and elsewhere in occupied Palestine. No, access to timely, comprehensive medical treatment is incredibly important. And indeed, many of those, approximately 200,000 Palestinians who've been injured over the course of the last 2.5 years, many more who've suffered as a consequence of not being able to access treatment for their chronic conditions. Some of the harm will be irreparable at this stage. Of course, it's a positive move that the crossing has reopened, that medical evacuations can continue. But as you say, the situation is dire. I think that we are so beholden to Israel and to its allies that these small concessions are being celebrated, as they should. But we're forgetting, or perhaps we're overlooking, the overarching structure of occupation, of genocide, of profound violence that is controlling absolutely everything at play here. The other story that needs to be told, of course, is the strangulation of access to healthcare inside Gaza. In the last couple of weeks, Al Jazeera and others have reported NGOs that are to be deregistered, banned from working in Gaza. Just this last weekend, MSF have been told that they're going to be banned from working. So the deprivation of access to healthcare inside Gaza and the selective issuance of exit permits for medical evacuees, this is just the most catastrophic situation and the most profound instrumentalization of healthcare by the Israeli occupation.